Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Outspoken Samantha. So if you're one of the 45 million Americans with student loans, you might be feeling a little bit of whiplash right now. Biden promised massive debt forgiveness, but the Trump administration is now saying it's time to pay things back. So what's going on? We're going to talk a little bit about the student loan repayment crisis. We're going to travel back in time to Biden's unfulfilled promises and why they didn't come to fruition, discuss Trump's new policies, and why people online are reacting the way that they are. But before we get into it, please hit the thumbs up button on this video and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. I appreciate you so much for doing both of those things. So let's start with Joe Biden. Back in 2020, as we all remember, he ran on the bold promise: cancel student loan debt for millions. He talked about wiping out up to $10,000 per borrower, and that number may have been higher at some point. I'm not sure. With some plans even aiming for $400 billion in total relief. The idea was to ease the burden on working class and middle class families struggling with this clearly crushing debt. By 2024, his administration claimed to have canceled $188.8 billion for 5.3 million borrowers, mostly through fixes to existing programs like the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, or PSLF, and other income-driven repayment programs. For example, in 2024, February of 2024, Biden announced $1.2 billion in forgiveness for 150,000 borrowers under the SAVE plan, which cut payments for low-income borrowers and promised debt cancellation after 10 years for some, which sounds great, right? However, most of these plans and proposals got stuck in court. The Supreme Court struck down Biden's $400 billion forgiveness plan in 2023, calling it unconstitutional. And other efforts like the SAVE plan were blocked by federal judges after Republican-led states sued, arguing that it was unfair for taxpayers and those who had already paid off their loans. But that's not how Biden framed it. Basically, his idea was the reason that these promises and these proposals were not going through is because of the big, bad, mean Republicans and conservatives.
The people's debt was literally about to get canceled. But then some of my Republican friends and elected officials and special interests sued us, and the Supreme Court blocked us. But that didn't stop us. No, I mean it sincerely. We continue to find alternatives.
So all of this confusion left millions of borrowers in limbo, with 8 million enrolled in the SAVE plan, not even knowing what their monthly payments would be. Biden's promises, as it was meant to do, energized young voters, but critics such as myself and many other conservative commentators saw this as the vote-buying scheme that it was, which completely ignored the rule of law. This tweet by John Milletmore says, "This was so predictable, but it served its purpose. Massive numbers of 18 to 29-year-olds turned out to vote Tuesday, and they voted blue by a 2-to-1 margin. The dangling carrot of loan forgiveness had a lot to do with it. Expect to see this ruse again." And they continued to dangle that carrot. They kept insisting that this is something that they could do, which continued to attract new voters to their side. Yet, even they knew that they did not have the power to take these loans that were agreed on by the individual borrowers and place that burden on taxpayers who had nothing to do with that debt. Even Nancy Pelosi said that the president did not have the power to do this.
People think that the president of the United States, is this more on the subject and you ever want to know, will you let me know? People think that the president of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress.
Don't you just miss her? So fast forward to 2025, and the Trump administration has taken a hard turn. President Trump has always been vocal about opposing student loan forgiveness, calling Biden's efforts vile and a total catastrophe. His team, led by Education Secretary Linda McMahon, is now telling borrowers no more free rides. According to The Blaze, the Trump administration announced on April 21st that it's resuming involuntary collection measures starting on May 5th. That means wage garnishment, seizing tax refunds, and even dipping into Social Security benefits for the 5.6 million borrowers in default. The Blaze quoted McMahon saying, "American taxpayers will no longer be forced to serve as collateral for irresponsible student loan policies." They argued Biden's pause on collections during the pandemic and his illegal forgiveness schemes left the system in chaos, with default rates climbing toward 25% on the 1.6 trillion loan portfolio. The New York Post reported that Trump's changes are causing frustration and confusion, which I have absolutely no doubt that that's happening. After a February 2025 court ruling blocked Biden's SAVE plan, the Education Department yanked applications for income-driven repayment plans, leaving borrowers potentially unable to switch to affordable plans. And while I completely sympathize with the stress of now being faced with this new burden each month, I think it's also important to remember that the problem was caused by pausing the loans initially, which was done as a COVID relief measure, but then by the next administration extending what was supposed to be temporary deferment to something that lasted for years, and then repeating the lie that he could forgive the debt when he knew he did not have the authority to do so. The New York Post says student loan collections were initially paused under Trump's first administration in 2020 as a COVID relief measure, but Biden later extended the temporary deferment program, McMahon said, noting that the Democratic president never had the authority to forgive student loans across the board. The move, she argued, only allowed students to rack up a massive debt that is now long past due. The last administration turned a molehill into a mountain, and now everybody is mad at this administration for coming in and having to be the bad guy and telling everybody that you're still responsible for the debt that you signed your name to. Meanwhile, the left has been fueling hate towards conservatives by saying that it's our fault that you didn't get the relief, when in reality, you didn't get it because it was against the law. On the right, many commentators have been hammering Biden's forgiveness as a bailout for elites, arguing that loan forgiveness unfairly punishes taxpayers who either never went to college or who have already paid off their debts. And now, of course, we're going to be relieved by the move of this administration because it means we don't have to add something onto our already financially burdened plates that we didn't sign up for. Going against everything Democrats stand for, the move by the Trump administration restores fairness and fiscal responsibility. And I know a lot of people online might think it sounds harsh by simply saying you took out the debt and now you have to pay it back. But understand, we also know that it's not a simple task and it is going to be very, very challenging for you. I absolutely see that. However, you also need to realize that those of us who are saying that also recognize that we did not cause this problem. We did not sign up for this burden. And despite what the perpetual victimhood ideology of the left has taught you, the rules cannot be changed every time someone has a hard time with something. I want to compare this whole situation to a video that I saw on TikTok the other day, because sometimes visual aid and analogies are a more effective way to get a point across. So in this video, this woman has taken her toddler to a restaurant, and the restaurant did not have a child seat for her toddler. So he had to just sit in a regular seat with her. And this is the situation that played out. I'm going to play it on double time because she talks really slowly.
Sorry for a sloppy TikTok because I see people crying. I'm like, put your fucking phone down. If this makes someone think for just a tiny second, I'm going to post it. We just went to an Asian restaurant that was on, I don't know, it had good stars, good ratings. We were like, yep, we'll go there for dinner. I've got a busy toddler, yes. Firstly, they had no high chair. I was like, that's okay. He sits on a chair at home, he'll eat at the table with us. Not perfect, but he'll eat with us. Mum and I were having a drink and he got off the chair. He went and said hello to the people next to us. Mind you, there was literally one family there with a newborn and someone else down there very far away. He started playing with a pot plant, fake pot plant. He's not doing anything wrong. He's just minding his own business, not pulling it apart or anything. They came over to me and they said, could you please put your child in the seat? Well, if you can't sit down the whole time, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I said, you haven't offered us a high chair. He's not doing anything wrong. He's not harming anything. He's not doing anything wrong. He will sit and eat dinner when it comes. Sorry, if he's not going to sit there the whole time, I'm sorry, we can't serve you here. So up we got and we left. Now we're in the hotel room. Maybe they would have thought twice if they realised that I was out all morning chasing him, trying to do something fun for him. Maybe he would have thought twice if he knew that I had been waiting for him to wake up so we could go out for dinner as a family, just us two and my mum. the ordeal to even try and get to a restaurant in the first place.
Now, I think when she posted that video, she thought that everybody was going to be on her side and that her tears would garner sympathy. But every single person in the comments was like, he's your child. You are responsible for him. It doesn't matter that he wasn't doing anything wrong in your eyes or that he wasn't being disruptive in your eyes. He was still being disruptive. He could have caused a problem for the servers. If they didn't see him, they could trip and drop something on him. But in her mind, he wasn't the problem. She was the victim. The problem was the person who expected her to take responsibility for her child. And she clearly didn't like the feedback because she did turn off comments on this video. In this scenario, the mom is the student and her child is the loan that she signed up for. And she walked in and she told them that she could handle this situation under the terms that they offered her. We don't have a child seat. She said, that's fine. My child can sit in a seat. But then she failed to go along with it. And in this scenario, everyone in the restaurant is the taxpayer. She has this kid that she's responsible for. And she lets this kid walk around expecting everyone else to just deal with it. Never mind that everybody else in that space is taking responsibility for their own kids and their own families. Now they have to be responsible for your child. And not only that, there are people there who may have chosen not to have kids, or maybe they chose to have a date night out. They can't have the experience that they signed up for because there's someone else in that space who thinks the responsibility of their kid should be shared by everyone around her. The servers now not only have to do their job, but they have to deal with the added stress of dodging a child. The other patrons are trying to enjoy their meal, but now they have to entertain somebody else's kid. It adds a burden on everyone else in the area, but at the end of it, she goes home and sobs because nobody else wanted to take responsibility for something that she is responsible for. And guaranteed, most of the people in the restaurant have kids or have raised kids that are now out of the home, including the staff and the owners of the restaurant. So everyone around you understands the challenge that you are facing and can sympathize with you. Them expecting you to make your child sit does not mean that they don't care, and it doesn't mean they don't understand what you are going through. A lot of them have dealt with their own kids or have dealt with it in the past and have had to work through exactly the same thing that you are facing in that moment. The problem here is when you're surrounded by people that have told you that you should expect everybody else to go along with whatever you want, and anyone who expects you to be an adult is heartless and you're always the victim. The people who told you that, who taught you that mindset, are the problem, not everybody else who didn't buy the lie and have taken responsibility for their own choices. I think we are all aware we have a major accountability problem in this country, people that want to be victims all the time. And in reality, there are just certain consequences that come with the choices that you make. And it doesn't mean that we don't understand what it is that you're dealing with, but at the same time, it is very unfair to expect anybody else to shoulder that burden for you. We all have our own burdens. We all have things that we're dealing with. We are all struggling in some way. And if you think that you're upset about having to pay your loan back now, think of how upset people have been over the last few years, thinking about having to pay back loans that we didn't sign our name to. Anyway, that's all I have for you in this one. I would love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. Please be sure, again, to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. I am trying to grow this channel, despite the fact that YouTube is pushing my channel and my content to the bottom of the barrel. Please subscribe. Other than that, keep it real, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.